Alright, YouTube. So far, Trump's cabinet picks have been some pretty good, like Mad Dog Mattis is certainly a good appointment. That's going to be great. Some are not so good, and then some are in the middle somewhere. I would say his potential pick for the Treasury, for that position, is probably the worst, which is, of course, Stephen Mnuchin or Munchin or something along those lines. It's one of those strange last names that I have to assume was not his birth last name, let's face it. But he's a former Goldman Sachs partner. Now, I like to believe that people can change over time. Like maybe he had a change of heart. He realized that the system he was participating in was fucked, and so he decided to make his own hedge fund. But anyone from that hedge fund class, it's basically just a money manager for other individuals. Now, I tend to assume that they're not making it very far in those endeavors unless they're willing to put the screws to other people and make their lives miserable. I do have some hope in that one of the first things he said is, oh, well, we're going to have to focus on tax cuts. That's a good idea, actually, as long as they're structured properly. I see people constantly conflating ratios with absolute numbers when they decry Trump's tax cut proposals. For people like me, it'd be great. Honestly, for anyone who's self-employed, small business owner, entrepreneur, you're going to do great under Trump's tax plan, honestly, even if it's half-assed as far as how much relief he's giving to our specific class of taxpayers. Oh, we're going to do fine. We're going to make money hand over fist, honestly. People who are in the working, middle, and lower class, they'll get tax relief. People near the top, they'll get tax relief too. I see no problem with this. I've always thought that we should just start slashing the budgets of these alphabet soup agencies, force a couple 100,000 people or maybe million people back into the private sector, and there's no more problem. We can pay for the tax cuts that way. How about wage a few less wars? How about some competition in our system? No more no bid contracts and monopolies and stuff. We've gone from the strange point at which the left maybe 100 years ago was arguing against monopolies, to a point now where we're worrying about the government monopolizing things by creating these bureaus that essentially act in a business fashion and not very efficiently. Very, very strange. So I will say I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and assume that maybe he's had a change of mind over time and he's no longer like pro-globalism. I can't imagine if he was, he'd make it very far under a Trump administration anyway. But the fact that he was a partner of Goldman Sachs, this is a while ago. In fact, it's a decade and a half ago that he left that behind to start his own ventures. But that being said, the fact that he was at any moment allied with such a movement does bother me slightly. I would have preferred Ron Paul. I think Ron Paul would have been hilarious to have in as the Secretary of the Treasury. Or Rand Paul or somebody like that. Would have been great. But at the same time, some of his picks are clearly better than others. Sessions is fine. Mad Dog Mattis is a good pick. I think that if he chooses Petraeus, when I last spoke about the Secretary of State position, the one he's talking to Romney, he's talking to Giuliani, blah, blah, Bolton, and so forth. Petraeus would be better than Giuliani. Petraeus would honestly be almost as good as somebody like Jim Webb. He's a person who knows what it's like to get screwed by the federal government for basically next to nothing. He probably has just as much of an axe to grind, by the way, against Hillary Clinton. And I'll point this out to people who chastised me yesterday. Oh, you got taken in by Trump's trolling on his flag-burning tweet. Yes, I'm aware that Hillary Clinton herself was one of the sponsors of legislation to render that a crime years ago. But that being said, from a libertarian perspective, I still have to speak out. If Trump is saying something like that, making that suggestion, even if it's probably a joke, it still needs to be called out for what it is, lest that prevailing notion take hold in an ironic manner. Because a lot of people, including Trump fans, still don't know he's trolling when he does these things. So that's in my defense there. As far as his cabinet, it's hit or miss. Now, nobody, I think, ever expected that he was going to simply load the cabinet with nothing but people from outside of the establishment. That being said, it's starting to stack up to look like at least a halfway decent cabinet. The Secretary of State position really does matter. It does matter if he chooses some idiot like Romney or Bolton Giuliani is the best of the lower tier candidates for that position and the only one who's tolerable. If he chooses Bolton, then he's probably a fool. If he chooses Romney, then it's nothing more than an overture to the establishment that'll oddly enough allow them to stab him in the back. You think Romney's suddenly going to become loyal because he gave him a position as Secretary of State? No, he'll probably get paid off by some idiot like McCain or even the Clintons themselves to stab Trump in the back once he gets into that position, to do something screwy that leaves a paper trail loosely tied to Trump so that they can get him impeached or something. I wouldn't trust Mitt Romney at all if I was Donald Trump. Petraeus is fine. Somebody like Jim Webb would be great. Petraeus would be better than Giuliani, I think. And I wasn't considering that before because I don't think his name had been seriously mentioned when I analyzed it before. Yeah, Petraeus would be fine. And maybe he would headhunt after the Clintons. It'd be very funny because then he'd be in a position in the Secretary of State to dig through all of that dirt they probably do have on Hillary, and there wouldn't be much that could stop him from doing so. Be very funny, call it Petraeus Revenge or something like that. I have no problem with General Petraeus. What the fuck did he do wrong? Oh, he gave classified info to his mistress, So, other people are doing 1,000 times worse than that and suffering no repercussions. He gets stripped of everything because of apparently a drunken mistake or whatever the hell it happened to be. I don't have anything against Petraeus. He didn't endanger our troops or anything like that like Hillary Clinton did. So people need to get over that. Mad Dog Mattis so far I think is the best choice of all. Having him around, it's like Trump goes on a parade and Mattis is sitting behind him. He doesn't have to worry about any JFK moments because Mattis is magnetic. Any attacker will be immediately sucked into his marine vortex, and then he'll crack their skull, and then he'll just start waving to the crowd. It's a great strategy. No one's going to fuck around with him with Mattis on his team. Great strategy. Even the Clintons wouldn't want to deal with something like that, because you fuck with him, and you're fucking with, hundreds of thousands of people that will cut you open and eat your entrails, potentially, if they get too many amphetamines into their system. So it's going to be great. As far as that goes, I'm very excited to see what happens in the first 100 days with him as a Secretary of Defense. Oh, it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be a riot to see the way ISIS has to respond. They'll probably disappear without a shot fired. But yeah, this Nutchin or Munchin or whatever the fuck his name is character, I'm hopeful that he's a reformed individual, but I'm not completely on board with the idea of having anyone connected with Goldman Sachs associated with politics. Honestly, I think at this point, Goldman Sachs is basically enemy of the people mode. Maybe we should look into whether they've collectively committed treason against our national interests and they shouldn't be able to touch the political system at all. Maybe we should look into that because they seem like a dangerous group of individuals, honestly. That's about all. Peace out.